welcome everybody. It's so good to see you all. Where are the rest of my colleagues? Hello, Ali. Hello, Rose. It's so great to see you guys. And we are very excited. It's almost time for Christmas. Ali and I will be dropping off some fantastic parcels to the women's shelter for the girls who are looking for a soft place to land. And I'm very excited about that, Ali. That's going to be happening very soon. Welcome to the Healing Through Love show. We're here to increase awareness within the community about providing family and domestic violence survivors with a soft place to land and to offer advice and services available to these survivors and their families.
And we have many people who want to provide their services for the day at our Paper Day events, and we thank them very much for doing that.
So each week on this show, what we do is we interview a couple of those supporters of our Pamper Days to learn more about their personal journeys, about their businesses, and why and how they support Healing Through Love to assist survivors. So I'm going to be doing the interviews today, ladies. It's my turn. So thank you very much in advance, Charlene, for going and commenting in Facebook. And thank you, Rose, to our tech guru. Have fun, ladies. We'll see you again at the end. So I would love to introduce you to our very first guest today. Now we have Dr. Sharon Camisar. Now I hope I said that right, Sharon. You can correct me in a minute if I didn't. But Sharon's primary expertise and teachings are in leadership skills and communication strategies. She started her career providing rape crisis counselling and raising awareness in forums as a social worker. Sharon has been a human rights advisor, professor and consultant for many organisations in the capacity of program and community development. She also reaches a global audience through workshops and conferences, empowering audience to be their best selves in their work and their relationships. Welcome, Sharon. How are you?
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to be part of your program.
It is such a pleasure to have you here, Sharon. So tell us a little bit about yourself and, why you've chosen to come onto the program today.
Okay, well, healing through love should be all of our mottos when we're going into workplaces as well as any other sphere we find ourselves in. So the name of your program yourself made me interested in knowing more about what you're doing. And then when we were talking also about your approach to information and support to your community also attracted me. As you've mentioned, my background is in counseling. I'm a social worker at heart. So also in education, but at heart, everywhere I find myself, I'm always drawing from that social work piece of myself. And it's been really important to me that in whatever I do, it comes from a place of empathy. Beautiful. And from a place of true support.
Beautiful. And no doubt you would have, in your previous role as a rape crisis counsellor, as a social worker, you would have had to do that an awful lot.
Exactly, right. Yeah. So when I am doing crisis counseling for women, particularly, it would be in the capacity of making sure that they have somebody in the moment of their crisis. So that might be in terms of helping them go to the police station, going to the courthouse, sitting with them as they need to process what's happened and what will be happening, making sure that they know that I'm there as a resource for options as well. So, those are just some of the ways that I would provide support to women who find themselves surviving a domestic assault.
Very much. So it's very much practical practical ways that you would assist them. And I know that today, so I know that you've come on today to talk about how others who might know people in the space of domestic violence, how they might be able to, like you did, support people through that crisis. So do you have some tips and some tools that you might be able to share with us today about that?
Sure. My first thoughts are, if you find yourself approached for support by someone who's survived an assault, the first thing is to, I'm trying to choose my words, sorry.
That's okay, no, I understand.
The first thing is to recognize that it's a big deal that they came to you. You know, it's very hard for women to come forward and tell people, you know, that this has happened to them specifically. It's a place of vulnerability and feeling of unsafe and being unsafe. So if they come to you, recognize that they come to you because they trust you and they see you, as your program says, a safe place to land. Right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's really important that be first acknowledged, and also supporting and validating them in that coming forward to you. Believe them. That's my second thing that I wanted to say as well, because again, many women don't come forward because they don't believe that they'll be believed. They don't believe that they'll be supported afterwards, but they'll be judged instead. So that's really important as well. So again, validating them, you know, reflecting their feeling, making sure that you're open to hearing what they're saying without questioning, well, are you sure this happened? Or are you sure it's that bad? Or, you know, maybe he had a bad night, or, you know, like maybe he was drinking. All of those excuses that some people might put forward, thinking that they are being supportive, is actually judging and not supporting the person who's. So those are the first things that come to mind when I think in terms of people coming to you looking for support.
And yeah, and that is so true, because I know that, you know, for me too, it was very much, for me, it was the fear of coming forward. And my personal experience wasn't necessarily physical, it was emotional. So there wasn't necessarily any evidence, if you like, to say that I was being treated the way I was. So it's interesting, you know, when you, as you say, we might question someone and say, oh, maybe you had a bad night. Would you suggest that might even scare someone back into a situation, unfortunately?
Right. Yes. I just wanted to say something in terms of the emotional. The emotional sometimes is worse than the physical. Because physical, you have the markings, you have the visible, you know, but the emotional, it plays on your psychology, you know, how you see yourself, your confidence, your, you know, the things that the shaming, the blaming, all of that, it all layers, right? So for me, in my opinion, I believe the emotional abuse is worse actually than the physical in certain ways. Anyway, your question was, don't forget your question.
Okay.
If this might scare someone going back into a situation that will put them at in harm's hands. And I would say that it might put doubt in their mind in terms of turning away from that relationship and going back. But also we need to understand that leaving usually doesn't take one time. Usually it takes at least, you know, 3, 4, 5 times of trying to leave and building up the courage to leave and finding the safe spaces to go, and detaching oneself from that partnership, because as we all know, no one is completely evil, you know, 100% evil, right? So sometimes we hang on to, well, he's not always that way. He's, sometimes he's kind of, a good guy, and we use that as an excuse to stay, so I'm
Yeah.
sorry. But there's so many things that's going through my mind when you ask that question. I hope I'm clear.
No, that was really, that was very good. And, and you, I think, phrased it better than I did, as in when I say going back, scare them back into it, it might just put doubt in their minds. I think you phrased it a lot better than I did, that's for sure.
Oh.
So, Sharon, thank you so much for coming on today. Did you have an offer or something that you'd like to share with our audience on how they can get in contact with you in the future at all?
Right. So I am a consultant and trainer, and I provide leadership development and employee engagement services, all online now, thanks to COVID. It's a lot easier and more accessible for people to reach out to me. I do offer 30 minutes free consultation, just to kind of discover where you might need some assistance, some coaching, some training. I do group as well as individual. And for more information, you can find online or in my LinkedIn under my name, Sharon Kamasa. Or if you can't remember my last name, which a lot of people can't, Intuits. That's INTUITS. Equity is the name of my company. Thank you, Ali, for having me.
Beautiful, Sharon. Dr. Sharon, I'll call you from now on. It has been an absolute privilege having you on today. And, as someone coming from the perspective of, a counsellor, a crisis counsellor in particular, it's been really valuable to have your perspective as to how someone, how someone outside of the situation might be able to, interact with someone in the space of abuse. So thank you. It's been a pleasure speaking to you today.
Oh, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
See you later, Sharon. And we have, before we go to our second guest, and I always forget this part, but I'm not going to forget today. Before we go to our second guest, we're going to have a quick word from our sponsors. And we are back. And now I would love to introduce you to our second guest today. We have Sarah Keast. Now, Sarah, in her words, has not had the best of luck when it comes to choosing her partners. She is a survivor of a psychologically abusive relationship which lasted 6 years. Sarah is passionate about helping others to rebuild their lives after exiting from a toxic relationship. Sarah is a humanologist, which means that she studies the science of human potential. She specialises in helping others to make that all-important first step towards a new goal. She also lectures in organisational behaviour at Southern Cross University. Welcome, Sarah. How are you, my darling?
I'm extremely nervous, actually, especially following on from Dr. Sharon. It's
Don't be nervous. We are all friends here. Don't worry. It's all good. So, Sarah, if you wouldn't mind, would you mind sharing a little bit about your journey through surviving abuse?
Yeah, this is I believed I wasn't going to trip over my words. I've sort of been trying to think about what I was going to say, because this is really the first time I've ever spoken publicly, except for when we met last week.
Very right.
And it was interesting because listening to your conversation with Dr. Sharon, there is that element of, unless there's physical evidence, and it's sometimes really hard to find. I love that phrase, find that safe place to land. Because when it's mental and emotional abuse, there's a huge amount of justification, and it's the same as with domestic violence as well. With the emotional abuse, I did actually get to the point where I was suicidal, and I truly believed that the world would be a much better place for everyone if I wasn't in it. And this was also my mindset, which was it would be easier for the partner I was with if I wasn't in the, because I was obviously causing so much drama, and I was obviously being so difficult to live with. You know, that I just couldn't do a single thing right, so therefore I must be a really, really terrible person. So yeah, that it did get to that point, and I was sort of thinking, this is insane. And finding that person to reach out to is actually really, really hard to do. And I did it on numerous occasions and didn't connect. And in fact, I did have a problem with a family member who went, I don't want to hear any more about this. So unless you sort it out, don't bother reaching out anymore. I've had enough.
And see, this is interesting now. We've spoken to Sharon, and now we're speaking to you from the survivor's point of view. So this is really interesting information. So did you, in the end, you know, obviously you've come out of that relationship now. So obviously in the end, you did find someone who was willing to listen?
Yeah, me.
Best person ever.
As crazy as that sounds, when it did finally come to an end, and I mean this ended now, gosh, and it's weird because I'm feeling all sort of like the hot sweats and everything, and I'm just like, oh my word, this is all coming back. And so this was 16 years ago. So it's not something that we just get over. And I think that this is something that's really, really important. That I was talking to a friend online when I sort of shared this link, and I said, at the end of the day, this has shaped the person that I am. Be that for good or be that for negative. When you come out the other side, you have to acknowledge that this is the person that you are, with all the warts, with all the bruises, with all the scars. And it's what you do with that moving forwards. It's how you harness that, because to survive any kind of abuse requires an astronomical amount of inner strength. And I think that we underestimate just how strong we are when we come out of, and it doesn't have to be an intimate relationship. I've been bullied at work. I mean, it got to the point where I was working in the Middle East. I was in charge of 7,500 employees, and I got bullied. Wow. You know, you're in charge of all these people, you're responsible for all these people, and I got bullied in the workplace. And then I came back to Australia and the same thing happened. I was like, what is going on here? I'm a senior manager. So if it happens once, unfortunately, I think it can happen again. I just think that there is a risk that we can attract that kind of person into our circle. And I'm very fortunate now that, you know, I've become perhaps a little more wily in terms of who I choose to be on my inner circle. I'm on my second husband, not because anything happened to the first one, but because I made a better choice with the second one. And he's, you know, he's incredibly supportive and also understands that I mean, we all have baggage, but, you know, we're talking truckloads of baggage that I've brought with me. So and I think one thing we talked about last week was, you know, with mental abuse, this isn't just isolated to women being on the receiving end as well. Absolutely. You know, and I think that us women can be pretty nasty, and we can dole out mental abuse. I mean, we don't have the physical power behind us. So I think it's an important element to understand that when it does come to abusive relationships, especially mental abuse, that, you know, men are the victims just as much as the women.
Yeah, and I very much, we've said that a few times on this show, and you know, I appreciate the fact that you've brought that up again today, because it is so true. And we've very much focused a lot, naturally, I think, on the women being the survivors. But yeah, there are so many men out there, and this is actually, you know, an area in which Healing Through Love would like to dive into in the future, and to not only support the women through the Pamper Days, but the men as well, because yeah, it's something that I believe that we need to get a lot more awareness out there for the men, because and I think this is something I said to you the other day too, is that women, even as hard as it is, we're natural talkers.
Yes.
Most of us, aren't we? Whereas men are taught to hide their emotions. So yeah, so do you want to speak to that? I can do all the talking here, but I'm not here to talk, you are.
It's very interesting, because I had a fantastic phase of my career where I got to work in mining, and I got to work in fly in, fly out sites. I got to work overseas, and it's really interesting that just in the same way that we apply the stereotypes to men, that the men apply the stereotypes to us. I mean, it's so funny. And I remember working in a mine, and you know, we were traveling in, and we were in this cramped little vehicle. And I overheard this conversation about this guy sort of talking about what his lawyer had said and how much his ex-wife was about to get, and the kids and everything like that. And I got this sort of sideways glance and a sort of, you know, oh, whoops, we've got an enemy in the midst.
Oh.
And it was really funny, because I sort of turned around and went, well, if it's any consolation, I said, I lost everything in my divorce. And you could see it rippled all the way down the vehicle. And when I got out the other side, and they said, hold on, you've been divorced? I said, yes, I've been divorced. And you didn't get everything? I said, no, I lost everything. And they were like, how does that happen? You're the female. And I'm like, no. I said, it doesn't always work that way. I said, it all depends on, you know, who's the more, I'm going to say, malicious, perhaps. I don't know what.
Yeah, interesting. And that kind of, you know, that brings to the forefront again that it is so important that we get the awareness out there for, you know, for men as survivors as well. So Sarah, would you just like to briefly tell us a little bit about what you do now and how you help other people, and, you know, if you've got a link or something that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a standing joke that I'm a Jill of all trades and a mistress of none. But one of the things that because I've gone through so many of these crazy roller coasters, one of the things that I work really well with people is that finding that initial, okay, well, what next? You know, sometimes thinking 5 or 10 years ahead, even thinking sort of next week can be a bit of a challenge if you're coming out of some massive event. So working out the next step. So, you know, whether it's reworking a resume so that, you know, you can start, you know, taking that next step with your career, whether it's, you know, reclaiming your fitness, whether it's, you know, getting back into some sort of education or learning. So I am very open to those conversations. And yeah, in fact, you know, yes, I lecture at university on consumer behavior and organizational behavior, but it's actually it's what makes humans tick that really, you know, that really gets my passion happening, I guess. So if anybody wants to hit me up for a chat, they can contact me through my Facebook, which is Sarah Keese. I talk a lot about mental health, so if that's not your jam, you know, I also talk a lot about bees because I've taken up beekeeping, and chickens. I talk a lot.
Bees and chickens, awesome.
Bees and chickens, yes. I have no idea what I'm doing, and we lost a chicken yesterday to sunstroke. So I'm a bit sad today.
Would you just like to repeat where people can find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on my Facebook, which is Sarah Keast. I'm trying to think what my little tag is at the moment. I also have a Facebook page. My business name is Advanced Humanology. So stick human and the ology on the end of it, and that's my business name, Advanced Humanology. So
fantastic, Sarah. Well, thank you. Thank you for being brave enough to come on the show and share your story publicly like that for the first time, because I recognise that it's not easy, and when you do that, it does, you know, put you back into the situation. So it's very, very brave of you today to come on. So thank you. We definitely appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure, Ali. Thank you so much. Thank you. And Merry Christmas to everyone. And yeah, I hope I get to cross paths with some of you wonderful listeners.
Absolutely. We hope you do too. Thanks again, Sarah.
Thank you. Bye.
And now I'm hoping that my two beautiful colleagues, Charlene and Rose, are going to come on and join me in a minute. There's one. Hi, Rose. Welcome back. I'm sure Charlene's going to pop on again in a sec. Well, she's coming because we would like, on behalf of the three of us, as you can see the little thing, fancy thing down the bottom there, we would like to say a very, very Merry Christmas to you all. This is our last show for this year, and we'll be looking at doing it again next year. So yeah, we wish you a very happy Christmas, and look out for some information about the Pamper Day that's coming up. Rose and Charlene and I will be putting some of that out very shortly. There she is. Hey, gorgeous girl. Would either of you ladies like to say anything before we close off for the year?
It's been a wonderful year, so fascinating and interesting. I know that this will never be repeated again. It has been an interesting year on every level. I'm looking forward, Ali, to dropping off the Christmas presents to the girls that are in need, and helping to create that soft place to land. The beautiful bundles of joy and yumminess, and beautiful products and all sorts of wonderful things, all girly. And I'm looking forward to that.
Me too.
And I'm actually looking forward to a little bit of time off too over Christmas, and I'm really looking forward to the new direction that we're going to be taking in Healing Through Love next year, and our very next event that's coming up in May.
Beautiful. Yes. Rose, would you like to say anything? Or you're muted, darling.
Yes, I would just like to wish all of our viewers a very Merry Christmas and a happy and prosperous New Year. Yeah, Charlene, you're right. It's been quite a challenge for everybody this year. We can only hope that 2021 brings brighter and better things. And please be kind to each other, and yeah, live your life with gratitude.
Thank you so much, Rose. And just lastly, before we sign off for the year, if you would like any information at all about Healing Through Love, you are welcome to go through to the Healing Through Love SA Facebook page, or email us. We have the Calendly link there if you would like to book in to talk to us, and we look forward to providing you with some wonderful shows next year, and our Pamper Day coming up as well. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Mwah.